You're watching the Military Channel. Go behind the lines.
When the battle begins and he's taking incoming rounds, the fighting man has to hit back and hard. Any threat needs to be neutralized with maximum force and maximum speed.
Bravo.
The infantryman of today carries a deadly range of portable firepower.
Good fire, that's what I'm talking about.
Pineapples, frags, and RPGs. Take cover and go back in time to discover the story of one of the meanest weapons families around. It's time to go ballistic. Soldiers through the ages have always wanted more and more throwaway firepower to extend their personal weaponry. To take on fortifications, strong points, or tanks. Heading up this deadly personal arsenal is a disposable weapon with a killer calling card. If the U.S. Army's latest recruit, the AT-4CS, comes knocking at your door, you better not be in. This portable, one-shot 84mm rocket launcher is at the cutting edge of firepower. Its 4-pound warhead could knock out a bunker from over 900 feet away, or smash through 15 inches of steel. And if anything else stands in the way of an infantryman, it's going to feel the wrath of this lightweight and easy-to-use weapon. Now, weaponology will unlock the family tree of grenades, launchers, and anti-tank weapons, going back through generations of technology to reveal how the grenade first emerged, how its deadly power increased, and how new innovative launch systems evolved into one of the finest big hitters on the battlefield, the AT-4CS. The foot soldier has one fundamental problem. Sometimes he must depend solely on what he can carry into battle. Come up against a bunker or a fortified building, and a rifle just won't cut it. Enter the first weapon in our family, the grenade. The soldier's quest for throwable firepower means this deadly device first appears in large numbers on the battlefield of the 17th century. Gunpowder rocks the world of war. Muskets acquire a new lethality, and cannon could fire further, raining explosive shells onto the battlefield. A tactical need emerges for portable firepower. Explosive shells, light enough to be carried by individual soldiers, changed the world of warfare from the 17th century. Now, a single foot soldier could take on fortifications. The first grenades copy explosive cannon shells. They are filled with gunpowder and ignited by a fuse.
They're hollow shells with holes in them full with an incendiary compound.
So you lit the fuse, and you had big guys throw these. These things weighed a lot.
French King Louis XIV is the first to create a new kind of soldier in the 17th century. Their role? To throw the grenade as far as possible. The grenadier was an elite fighting man in all the armies of the period. Recruited because of their height and sheer physical strength, the grenadier needed a good throwing arm. He would advance on an enemy position and throw as many of his grenades as he could. Their bravery was legendary, not least because of the unpredictability of early grenades.
The trouble was the fuses were unreliable, so the men who threw grenades, the grenadiers, were pretty amazing blokes. They were either crazy or they were very brave, and of course they became an elite within armed forces.
A stray spark could easily detonate his deadly cargo with disastrous consequences, leaving him with horrendous injuries.
You might wind up to throw it, and before it even leaves your hand, bang!
off goes the grenade and, well, off goes your hand.
Despite some occasional use in the Civil War, it is too dangerous to handle. As a result, the grenade awaits its comeback until the war to end all wars ripped through the heart of Europe. It was on the bloody battlefields of World War I that the grenade returned, becoming easier to use and even more deadly as enemies face off over the wire. Trench warfare is brutal, messy, close-quarter battle, ideal for the grenade.
It was dogfighting, it was rough, it was violent, it was very close quarters, and that's where a grenade comes into its own.
Precision-engineered time fuses mean soldiers know exactly when an explosion will occur and how much time they have to throw a grenade. Mechanization means safe, reliably timed grenades could be mass-produced in huge numbers and custom-made for two specific roles: defense and attack. When a defensive grenade detonates, it fragments over a large area. The safety fuse gives the thrower time to take cover before it explodes into pieces.
A defensive grenade means that you're protected by a trench or a bunker and able to throw it so it can throw off a large amount of fragments so you don't frag yourself or cause yourself a casualty.
A defensive hand grenade you want for just that purpose. As people come up towards your position, you can throw this at them.
Offensive grenades are used by attacking troops in the open. They rely on sheer explosive blast to kill, rather than fragments. The time fuse allows the user to predict when his grenade will explode for maximum effect.
An offensive grenade largely is not much of a fragmentary grenade. Instead, it has a large amount of explosive. And so what it does is it incapacitates through concussion. And that way, because you're either running forward or you're exposed, the fragments won't come back and injure you.
All nations manufacture their own grenades, but two World War I designs would come to the fore as supreme killing machines. The defensive Mills bomb and offensive German stick grenade would go on to fight through two world wars. The Mills bomb was the brainchild of a British golf club manufacturer, Sir William Mills. Its cast iron shell concealed an innovative firing mechanism. A pin held a spring-loaded lever in place. As long as the lever was held down, the grenade was safe. Pulling the pin and throwing the grenade released the lever, causing the striker to hit the timer fuse. Safe and simple to handle, the Mills bomb would inspire countless other defensive pineapple grenades. The distinctive German stick grenade, meanwhile, first exploded onto the battlefield in 1915.
What you did was you unscrewed the base, and this little porcelain ball dropped out. You jerked on that, and that started the powder train, and then you could throw this thing. This is an offensive hand grenade because you notice the wall of this is very, very thin. And because it's thin, it basically disintegrates into dust when it goes off.
This lack of fragments made it safer for attacking soldiers to use. Unlike the defensive Mills bomb, whose fragments were lethal, it was the concussive effect of the stick grenade's blast that was deadly to the enemy.
A blast can kill you because it disrupts the internal organs of the body. But nonetheless, you don't have a lot of fragmentation with this. Consequently, it's a lot safer to be around than the defensive hand grenade.
German soldiers went to war with the stick grenade again in World War II, and it still had one very useful advantage. The trademark handle gave added range.
The idea there is to be able to throw the grenade more accurately and further by using it as a lever and being able to throw it toward the enemy.
What we have here are two grenades. We have the British Army Mills bomb and we have the German stick grenade. What we want to do is see how far we can throw both of them, see which way it goes the furthest. So we'll go for a throw. That's gone maybe 15 yards. Now we'll try it with a stick grenade. 30 to 40 yards, more than double what the Mills bomb would do.
Even today, grenades are a soldier's best friend. Easily carried and thrown. Get close enough and the enemy doesn't stand a chance.
Grenades are used in close quarter fights. So to clear a building, you use up a tremendous amount of things like grenades, flashbang grenades, fragmentation grenades, anything to disrupt the other guy. Grenades are very, very important.
Grenades are still a simple answer to dislodge a determined enemy. The resulting explosion from a grenade can be devastating.
The blast radius is, for a modern hand grenade, about 10 meters. You draw a 10-meter circle, 50% of everyone in that circle is going to become a casualty. Now, as you get in towards the center of that circle, that percentage goes up. So if it's right on top of you, stand by.
What the soldier really craves is even more range. A better solution arrived in the form of the rod rifle grenade, first invented by Englishman Martin Hale in 1907 and used in World War I.
Basically, what they did was they took a regular grenade and they put a long metal shaft on the thing, and they used blank ammunition, and they would put that down the tube of the weapon and fire it.
Then the idea was to take the rifle grenade and place it into a cup that would attach to the outside, the muzzle end of the rifle, and you fired a blank cartridge to project it 300 or 400 meters.
Leap forward a generation to World War II, and rifle grenades continue to give infantry the firepower they need. But all these weapons are only short range. If you want to throw a grenade really far, you need a dedicated grenade launcher.
4 more rounds downrange now. 5.
Damn.
Good fire, that's what I'm talking about.
Whenever the soldier is in close quarter battle, for generations he's reached for the grenade. Frags and pineapples have done battle in World War I and II, Vietnam, and today. The only problem is, hand and rifle grenades are limited in range. If soldiers want to reach out and destroy, they need something bigger. Time to meet the grandfather of all modern portable grenade launchers, and the first in a long line of deadly machines that combine range and firepower. In the never-ending quest for bigger and better bangs, it didn't take long for the dedicated grenade launcher, the M79, to step up to the plate.
What I've got in my hand here is the M79 grenade launcher. This came in during the Vietnam era as a way to launch a grenade in excess of 300 meters. It breaks open like a shotgun, like this. It's a single-shot weapon. Close it like so. There's the safety here, and bloop. Called a blooper because that's the sound it makes when it goes off.
Unlike a rifle grenade, the blooper fires a fixed cartridge, a giant 40mm bullet that combines a grenade and propellant charge.
You fire high explosives, smoke, and other rounds out of it. But the problem was that the soldier carrying this M79 or bloop tube had that as his dedicated weapon. He carried a .45 caliber pistol and this bloop tube.
The soldier needed a rifle rather than a pistol for protection. A grenade launcher and rifle in one was the ideal solution.
The decision was made, what if we could combine the two? And so experiments were made during the Vietnam War, and in 1969 they fielded this weapon, the M203. What this does, it combines a standard M16A1 rifle, and one soldier out of each fire team of 4 to 5 would have one of these launchers. By pushing a button on the left-hand side, you slide forward the launcher, the grenade goes in, you close it down on top of it, and you fire it with a trigger. This is a capability that the fire team of 4 or 5 soldiers would have. These are still used today, and the idea or concept has been copied by armies all around the world.
The M203 underslung launcher is an effective addition to the infantryman's firepower. But should he need something more heavy-duty and has some buddies to hand, he can call on the General Dynamics Mark 19, one of the biggest and baddest grenade launchers around.
It's a bell-fed weapon and can put out a tremendous number of grenades. It's sort of like a machine gun grenade launcher. A tremendous amount of firepower can be put out with the Mark 19.
Good fire, that's what I'm talking about.
That's the sound of 60 rounds per minute. You don't want to mess with that sort of power. Usually mounted on a vehicle, the 72-pound Mark 19 is still crew transportable, but like many of these launchers, can't blow away a battle tank. For that, a whole new family of anti-tank weapons was devised. During World War I, a new beast, the tank, stalked the battlefield, and we become the arch enemy of the infantryman. When the earliest Mark IV tanks attacked on September 15, 1916, warfare changed forever.
When the first tank makes its appearance on the battlefield, the infantry had no weapons against it. They were powerless.
Tanks scare the hell out of people in 1916.
There was just no answer to this thing.
A never-ending race would begin between the foot soldier and his new adversary. Desperate to find a solution, the Germans resort to big gun technology.
The Germans are going to come up with the first anti-tank gun. And what they're going to do is they're going to take their standard Model 98 rifle, and they're going to upscale it, and they're going to make it a 50 caliber, a half-inch weapon. It's a huge weapon. It could pierce the armor of early tanks.
By World War II, weapons like the boys' anti-tank rifle are still seen as the infantryman's answer to tanks, by all sides.
It's a bolt-operated weapon. Here's the bolt, and you pull that back, and so on and so forth. Magazine is here, holds 5 rounds. This is a 55 caliber weapon.
Despite such a large caliber, the weapon is far from perfect.
There is the muzzle blast, of course, which was horrendous and could give away your position. The recoil is just awful. This is an elephant gun twice 3.
What's more, try running into battle with an anti-tank rifle like the boys, and you wouldn't last long.
This weapon is very heavy. It's about 40 pounds worth of weapon. Little guys can't carry it.
By 1940, weapons like the boys were woefully obsolete. The reason why was simple. Bullets had reached their technological limit against tanks.
You could only generate so much speed going down range with a rifle caliber bullet. So the weapon just could not muster enough kinetic energy to pierce the armor of a tank.
As Hitler's army stormed through Europe, Britain faced invasion by hordes of German tanks. In a top-secret location, engineers and scientists experiment with new types of tank-killing grenades. Time to meet one of the most quirky and dangerous family members of this weaponology tree, the Mark 74 sticky bomb. As Great Britain looked for ways to counter the threat of Nazi tanks, engineers of the MD1 research group create a bomb that used glue to stick to enemy armor.
Sticky bomb was one of those extraordinary weapons developed in the early part of the Second World War.
You broke it out of its container, and you threw it up against a tank, and it stuck.
But theory didn't always translate into practice. It needed a brave infantryman to run up to a tank. And the bomb covered in high-strength glue was a recipe for disaster.
It was a very hazardous weapon because there was a timer on it. When you pulled the pin, you had a certain amount of time before it exploded. The real hazard was you pulled the metal case off, you pulled the pin, you kind of moved back to throw it. What do? It stuck to you.
The main disadvantage of using a sticky bomb was you had to get within bomb throwing distance of the thing. You had to be real close. If you have infantry support with the tank, the infantry is going to provide defense against someone throwing a sticky bomb up against the tank.
The sticky bomb is a clever idea. It's just not very friendly to the poor guy who's got to use it.
The Germans came up with a stick-on tank destroyer of their own, called the Haft-Hollendung. Like its British counterpart, the problem was getting close enough to the enemy tank to apply the magnetic charge. But it had the edge in terms of technology. It used a principle called hollow or shaped charge and exploited a scientific phenomenon known as the Monroe effect. In the late 19th century, it was American Charles Monroe who first noticed how the power of explosive could be greatly enhanced. While working at the Rhode Island Navy torpedo plant, he made an interesting observation. He found that, on detonation, any concave cavity or lettering on a block of explosive gun cotton caused a marked depression in the metal. Monroe noticed that lettering on the gun cotton block was burnt into the target. Today, the Monroe effect can be demonstrated using sheet explosive engraved with lettering rather than gun cotton. A sheet of brass is placed directly against the explosive.
I'll place the detonator on one corner, and then I'll retire a safe distance and press the button. And then we look for the brass plate, which shouldn't go too far, and we see what's happened. This is precisely the Monroe effect. Here we have it. Look at that. Whoa! What do I read? Weaponology. You saw it here first. You can see very clearly where there was a groove, that is where there's writing, and these two circular grooves there, the effect on the metal was greatly intensified.
The conclusion from Monroe's discovery was clear. If you need to burn holes in steel or armor, a cavity in the charge can increase its power. It focuses the chemical energy of the blast inwards. But it was a German called Egon Neumann who took the technology even further.
Neumann was probably the first person to recognize the applicability of that phenomenon to cause damage to a metal target. He explored the shape of the cavity to maximize that effect.
By the middle of the Second World War, the combination of the Monroe effect and the work of Egon Neumann would lead to the development of some of the deadliest tank-killing weapons ever.
3, 2, 1.
On the battlefield, what counts more than anything is packing the biggest punch possible. Hand grenades and launchers are deadly against infantry. But to kill a tank or bunker, you need enough power to blast through steel or concrete. Known as hollow or shaped charge weapons, they can penetrate bunkers or tanks with very thick armor, thanks to the work of two visionary scientists. American chemist Charles Monroe had established that cavities in explosives added to the destructive force of a blast. 22 years later, German Egon Neumann would also make an important breakthrough. His discovery would fast-track a whole family of tank-killing weapons. Neumann noticed that by creating a conical cavity within an explosive, even greater damage could be done. By the Second World War, Neumann's work had been taken a step further. Surrounding that conical cavity with a thin metal liner and detonating the warhead away from the target made it even more devastating. As the explosive detonates, the chemical energy liquefies the metal liner, and a jet of molten metal, a penetrator, is pushed through the armor into the target. What's more, the bigger the diameter of the cone, the longer the deadly penetrator jet becomes.
The shape charge revolutionized anti-tank weapons. It had terrific penetrative power, it was light, and a man armed with a rocket launcher or a single-shot disposable weapon could destroy some of the most powerful tanks that were then being fielded by the Russians, the Germans, or the Allies.
And a comparison of the damage it causes shows why few tanks could resist it. 3 identical 45-gram explosive charges are rigged up. One with no cavity, one with a 60-degree cavity and one with a 60-degree cavity lined with a copper cone.
This one, I expect simply to drill a hole through most of those steel plates.
The charges are placed on 5-inch long metal legs. This creates the optimum standoff distance for a charge of this size and allows the jet to form.
3, 2, 1. Okay, let's see what we have.
The first two targets showed little or no damage at this standoff distance. But the 10 steel plates under the hollow charge are a totally different story.
Now, here we have plate 1. You can see where it's been hit by the copper. I see a hole in plate 5. Oh, damn it, I can tell you, it's gone all the way through all of them. It's drilled a hole in the ground. That goes down, 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 down in the ground, that hole. Look, there's the exit hole in the final plate. That was 10 centimeters of steel.
Few could doubt the technology could blast through the toughest tanks. Nonetheless, initial attempts at launching hollow charge warheads were not always entirely successful. One of the more cumbersome delivery systems was the British PIAT, or Projector Infantry Anti-Tank, designed by British Major Millis Jeffries.
This monstrosity is called a PIAT, a Projector Infantry Anti-Tank. And what it really is, it's a spigot mortar. It depends on the energy of a big spring that's in here, and here's the spigot.
The idea was the spigot would fire forward into the shell, and combined with the recoil from a small charge in the PIAT bomb, would force the spring back and recock the weapon for the next firing. However, there was a problem. To fire its first bomb, it had to be cocked manually.
To load it, stand on the base plate, twist it, stand up, cock it. That's the weapon cocked. The recoil on it was bad. Some old veterans say you required the Victoria Cross just for firing it.
If the recoil wasn't bad enough, the weapon was deadly to tanks, but you had to get uncomfortably close to the target to destroy it.
Max effective range on this, although the sight says 50, 80, and 110 meters, if you got 40 meters out of it, you were really, really lucky. This thing's awful. I mean, this is just awful. I wouldn't want this. There are a lot better ways to launch a shaped charge up against armor, like a rocket.
And it was rocket power that would give birth to one of the most famous weapons of World War II, the bazooka. Rocket power would finally create a delivery system that would accelerate shaped charge weapons and open a new chapter in the struggle against tanks and bunkers. Rockets had been used in warfare for centuries, but it wasn't until the 1920s and 30s that they became a serious and reliable proposition. As war loomed, the U.S. Army tested the feasibility of using rocket technology to fire shaped charges at Aberdeen Proving Ground. By 1942, the bazooka was born, and its name came from an unusual source.
This is the American bazooka, named after Bob Burns, who had a musical instrument that he called a bazooka. It was a tube that he could play, and so this is what it looked like, so the troops called it a bazooka.
A two-man crew would operate the 2.36-inch bazooka. The number one would shoulder, aim, and fire the weapon. The number two was responsible for loading the rocket projectile, connecting the electric firing cable, and clearing the weapon to fire. Once the firer got the tap, he was ready to go. Fired at a tank at close range, the results could be devastating.
Go, go.
The bazooka could be used not only against tanks, but also against bunkers. It was a truly feared weapon, despite some problems.
One of the drawbacks is that as the rocket goes out the front, you've also got rocket exhaust coming out the back. So you have flash in the front and flash in the back. Consequently, if you're in a confined area, it's very difficult to use this because you could burn yourself or burn others.
The flash also gave away the firer's position. Yet even with these shortcomings, the Germans were impressed with the technology. When they captured some bazookas in North Africa, they simply made it bigger, boosting it to a 3.5-inch caliber. The German Panzerschreck, or Tank Terror, was a lethal take on its American predecessor. No tank was safe. By 1944, problems with the first models were addressed in an improved version, with a shield to protect the firer from backblast. In whatever form, it was lethal due to its bigger caliber. It could blow holes in tanks at up to 165 yards and penetrate 8¼ inches of steel.
If you hit an American Sherman, it would take it out, not a problem. The gunner would have lifted this up to his shoulder, and then he would have had a loader that would have loaded this thing for him. One man could have done it, but it was a difficult operation.
The crew-operated Panzerschreck wasn't the only weapon to show the Germans were technologically ahead of the game. They would create one of the most simple, yet deadly weapons of World War II, and one that would spawn another, even more fearful relative. By World War II, it was widely understood that if an infantryman wanted to take out a tank, he needed a portable weapon with a hollow charge warhead. Each side boasted their own models, like the bazooka or Panzerschreck, all deadly to armor. The race between the tank and the foot soldier was about to get even more intense with the birth of the forefather of all man-portable anti-armor weapons. By the middle of World War II, the Germans face a problem. Allied tanks are closing in on all fronts, and they can't make enough tanks of their own. They need a cheap, portable, one-shot anti-tank weapon that every infantryman could carry.
They needed more weapons to knock out the hordes of T-34s that were flowing across the steppes of Russia and moving toward East Germany. So they came up with a weapon, a propelled grenade. It was a tube, a simple tube like a pipe.
This simple metal tube was married with a hollow charge bomb to create the German Panzerfaust. An explosive propellant charge sent the bomb on its way to the target.
This is the German Panzerfaust, or Panzer Fist, and it is a very, very effective anti-tank weapon. You put it up under your arm and aimed it and fired it and threw this thing away.
Easy to use and above all lightweight, this throwaway weapon was ordered by the Heereswaffenamt, the German Army Weapons Office, in 1942. It began to appear in various sizes from 1943 onwards. It terrified Allied tank crewmen on all fronts and proved a potent weapon.
These early Panzerfaust, these inexpensive handheld launchers, had only a range of 30 to 60 meters. It was a very short-range weapon, but it was ideal for the bocage country, the hedgerows of Normandy, when they could be fired from the side or rear of Allied tanks in very close range. And they could be made in very, very large numbers, and they were quite successful considering how simple a weapon they were.
The great thing about it is the warhead. This is a shaped charge, and you see how big the diameter of the shaped charge would have been. So this is a very, very large warhead and a very effective warhead. During the Battle of Berlin, civilians were issued these to take on Russian tanks, and they were very, very effective. A 12-year-old can do this. The Hitler Youth used this to great effect against hardened Russian soldiers. So it's a disposable weapon. It's a one-shot deal. You fire it and you throw it away. So this is the granddaddy of the modern disposable system.
Leap forward a generation, and you see the legacy of the Panzerfaust on the modern battlefield. By Vietnam, GIs were issued with a 66mm disposable rocket launcher called the LAW, or Light Anti-Tank Weapon.
It was a weapon of about this length that could be easily carried by a soldier. This gave the rifle squad the ability to knock out a light armored vehicle or even a tank. It could also be used as a bunker buster.
When that thing went off, it was a heck of a racket. It was very loud, and there was no doubt in anyone's mind that that thing had been fired. And not only was it loud going off, but the explosion was pretty good too.
As the U.S. infantry went to battle with the LAW, another rival weapon, also inspired by the World War II Panzerfaust, was about to give them a nasty surprise. Enter the Soviet RPG, a Russian improvement of the German weapon, and a tank killer that still stalks the battlefield of today. At the end of World War II, Soviet forces got their hands on German anti-tank technology in the form of the Panzerfaust, and they liked what they saw.
The Russians were extremely impressed by the Panzerfaust, and it was the basis of their RPG program, which started with RPG-2 and then went on to the now famous RPG-7.
Unlike the Panzerfaust, the RPG is not a throwaway, but is reloadable and is even more dangerous. Like many of its predecessors, it's the warhead of the RPG that does the killing, thanks to its deadly hollow or shaped charge payload. When the firer shoulders the weapon and acquires the target, all he has to do is press the trigger, and a precise chain of events occurs. The first rocket booster charge sends the warhead forward at 383 feet per second. An additional rocket fires, and stabilizing fins deploy once the shell has cleared the launcher. The shell spins and is steadied as it travels to the target. As the warhead slams into its target, the head squashes, and a charge ignites the explosive surrounding the lined cone. The deadly jet is formed and pushed through the armor. It penetrates inside, killing people and igniting ammunition.
It's very effective. One man can use it, that's the other thing. It's not a crew-cert weapon.
A simple system. Any peasant boy can work it. It's just as simple can be, and it works. If I were in a vehicle and this were being fired at me, and it's a soft-skin vehicle, I would be afraid. I would be very afraid.
As soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan know only too well, an RPG-7 hit can be devastating. And lucky are those who can walk away from one and tell the tale.
For the most part of my time in Iraq, the RPG was a pretty much deadly weapon. I was a 240 gunner. We were on patrol, and we came under an ambush. An RPG came in, struck my 240, blew me back, and struck the vehicle, which destroyed the vehicle and injured me. If you see an RPG fired, it's pretty much too late. The best bet is to lie down on the ground, and you're going to take shrapnel either way.
In the race to counter these weapons and other standoff munitions, tank crews have always shown ingenuity as they attempt to protect themselves. On the battlefields of today, U.S. Strykers and British Warrior vehicles carry slat armor cages to detonate RPG-7 rounds. These simple countermeasures pre-detonate the charge away from the tank's main armor, meaning the warhead is no longer at its optimum standoff distance, minimizing the damage. It's not hard to understand why soldiers and tank crews are so desperate for this protection. The race between anti-armor weapons and their targets is finely balanced, and the arrival of new weapons like the AT-4 and its bigger brother, the U.S. Javelin, means the infantryman is in the ascendancy.
When that weapon hits, it's such a devastating hit, that whole thing flies apart.
As the battlefield has gotten more sophisticated, a whole range of man-portable or crew-served weapons has evolved to give the fighting man the firepower he needs. Whatever the job, there's a portable system he can call upon. To root out the enemy or clear a house, he has grenades. If a bunker blocks his way, throwaway weapons like the law have become commonplace. And should he come across his worst enemy, the tank, a whole family of hollow-charged weapons is at his disposal. From rocket designs to less commonplace technology like recoilless rifles, the goal has been the same. Give your soldiers the power to kill tanks. Modern shoulder-fire weapons also give the infantry the power to blow aircraft out of the sky. Weapons like the Stinger can take out helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft with ease. But when it comes to ground-based targets, it's today's family of wire-guided missiles that have raised the game. TOW, Milan, Dragon. All use missiles that are tracked onto the target by the firer using thin control wires. Another system is a fire-and-forget missile like the U.S. Army's latest, the Javelin. Once the operator has locked onto his target with the control unit, the Javelin's missile will hunt it down.
You have two basic components of the weapon, the clue, which is the command launch unit, and the missile or the round, whichever you want to call. You open your two sights, prepare your missile. It has a travel lock pin. You remove that pin, pick up slightly on the round, take the cover off. This is the end the actual missile will fire from. There's two prongs on the front of your clue. There's two slots for it. It locks into there. Your missile is ready to fire at that point. Your firing position, you're gonna take a seat, reach over your left hand, reach under the missile, pick it up to your shoulder, place your elbows or your forearms on your knees, and you're ready to acquire your target. The different fire modes for this weapon, you have a direct fire, which means it's straight like a bullet from a gun. You also have plunging fire. So what this missile does, it goes up above the target and comes down directly onto the top of the target. You feel the round kick, and you see your target destroyed.
When that weapon hits, it's such a devastating hit that, the biggest piece left is maybe the transmission. That whole thing flies apart.
Weapons like the Javelin or TOW are deadly, but come at a cost. They are heavier and more complex systems than throwaways like the AT-4. Also, missiles are a lot more expensive than rockets to manufacture. The AT-4, on the other hand, is more practical, lighter, and easy to carry or use, as well as being ideal in urban battle. In order to fulfill their true purpose, grenades, frags, and RPGs have to be light and portable, simple and inexpensive, and in return, give unequaled firepower. When the soldier is pinned down, he needs and has always needed this disposable deadliness. Today, one weapon epitomizes everything that has been learned down the years about throwaway firepower. The AT-4CS is the supreme incarnation of affordable destruction. It's simple to use and able to blow away a bunker or take out a tank. It weighs only 15 pounds and is ideal in urban warfare or confined spaces. Inside the tube is the latest in a long line of deadly technology. Drawn together, the branches on its tree reflect its genesis. Grenades were good, but needed range. Technology and innovation answers the call for better anti-tank weapons, while rocket power led to a lethal family of portable rocket launchers, evolving into the ultimate infantryman's armament accessory. Weaponologically, the AT-4CS is top of the tree.
You're watching the Military Channel. Go behind the lines.